Welcome to Reimagine Childhood, brought to you by Early Childhood Christian Network, where we equip you with the tools you need so you can confidently care for and teach young children. We know you want to provide the very best early childhood experience for children and for their parents. But sometimes you feel frustrated and ill equipped because the training that's required is not interesting or it's just not applicable to your daily needs in the classroom. In every episode, we reveal practical, applicable strategies to use in your classroom that will create a lasting impact and will help children build the foundations they need for a lifetime of success. I'm your host, Monica Healer. I'm excited to introduce you to my new friend, Josh Zello. Josh is passionate about creating gospel-centered, developmentally appropriate preschool ministries. With over 15 years of experience in early childhood education, he understands the pivotal role preschool plays in both spiritual and developmental growth. Honored as the 2016 Early Childhood Educator of the Year at San Antonio College, Josh has served ministries of all sizes and equips others through speaking, writing, and coaching. He is currently the family pastor at Redemption City Church in Baltimore, Maryland. He's a featured contributor in Kids Matter magazine and a speaker at the National Kids Matter Conference. He empowers preschool ministry leaders to serve with gospel-driven excellence. He has a huge heart for young families in his community. My husband and I had the privilege of spending a Sunday at his church and in his neighborhood with his wife and daughter back in the spring. It was obvious how much effort he puts into making real connections with young parents he encounters at the park by his house or on the street. He's intentional about engaging them. Today, we'll talk about some practical tips for making story time more engaging for young children. He gives several practical tips that I think will help you in the classroom. Josh had a little bit of a cold the day that we recorded, and he does have a stutter that gets worse when he's sick. So you may notice that as you listen today, but I think today's episode will definitely be worth your time. Let's jump in. Welcome to the podcast today, Josh.
Thank you. I'm excited.
You are one of those unique people who have really given your life for young children. Like the Lord has called you into ministry with children. And you said to me the first time we talked that you really have felt a calling from God to focus on early childhood. So I'm excited to have you on the podcast today to talk to us about how we can really engage children in group times. Some of us call it story time, Bible time, circle time, whatever you call it. When we're trying to gather young children together into a group activity, sometimes young children want to cooperate and they can be a little bit squirrely where maybe they don't want to sit still or maybe they don't want to stop playing. So what we're going to talk about today, talk to me first of all, developmentally, why do you think circle time, story time, these group time activities are difficult for young children, preschoolers?
Oftentimes we think through how you and I, as grown-ups, we might learn by sitting down and reading books, or we engage with a story through screens. But kids are not like that. Kids don't learn by sitting down in desk chairs,
Mm.
computing, and just kids learn by doing. And when they stand up and move, squirm, kids learn through those things. Oftentimes, when we try to have story time, circle time, we can get increasingly frustrated thinking, man, these kids just won't sit still and learn. By the kids being up and about and, yeah, run around, by the kids doing those things, they are trying to learn.
Mm.
It's just how their brains learn. My wife is expecting and she's 5 months now. And as that child moves in her womb, even right now, he's starting to learn through movement.
Never
From,
thought about that. Like babies are
yes,
as they're moving around. That's
yes,
amazing.
from that point on, kids learn by how can I move and experience in this world that I've been placed into.
I love to think about that. It's true, I think as adults learn through direct instruction, someone teaching us, right? I go to church and sit in a pew and listen to my pastor preach a sermon for a certain amount of time. And I think that's me learning. But with young children, sitting and listening to a sermon, a story, a Bible lesson, or any kind of lesson, that's not really their primary means of building those connections in the brain. It's fine. We're not saying don't read to kids or don't tell them stories. We're definitely saying you should do that, but it's not their primary means of learning. So listen, early childhood audience, as you are listening to Josh and I talk today, remember that children learn so much by playing, by walking, by picking up and holding things and doing things and manipulating things and just moving their bodies. So while we're going to talk about how to have a more effective story time, know that what you are actually saying to them is the least of what they're learning. Really.
That's right. That's right. Years ago, I read that for a boy who's 5, he burns more calories sitting still than running around because he has to work really hard to sit still, hands in lap, staying on that rug, staying on
Goodness.
that round dot. He might not even be hearing you because he's so focused on, hey, I have to sit still.
That's a great thing for us to consider. When we're asking young children to sit still for so long, their brains are so busy trying to keep their bodies still that their brains can't actually really engage with you in a story or a lesson. The reality is that we probably should have some sort of a group gathering on a Sunday morning in a weekday classroom. There's probably going to be a point in time where you need to have some kind of a group gathering, a story, or read a book or provide lessons. So let's talk through how can we make that time engaging for young children. Let's just go ages 2 to 5, maybe, right? It's going to be different for a 2-year-old than a 5-year-old, but the gist of it will be basically the same, even though a 2-year-old is not going to sit still for very long. So keep that in
Yeah,
mind.
so my very first job was a Christian school. I taught chapel time.
Yeah.
Started with kids who were 1, and then I had the 2s and the 3s count. And it really taught me how to teach kids, starting with the youngest kids going to the 4s and 5s. It was funny too how at the very end of that day, the 4s and 5s seemed giant. Those kids would
You
come in and
started
I mean, y'all are grown. As I thought through and planned how to teach those kids, I thought through, okay, how can kids hear it? How can
Mhm.
kids see it? And how can kids do it? So
Oh,
first
that's good.
off, how can kids hear it? Because yes, kids do learn when they hear. That is a part of it.
Right.
Yes, it is a goal of mine for them to hear God's word being taught, for them to hear godly truths, for them to hear scripture.
Right.
I want those things heard. So there will be time that I'm going to speak those things.
Mm.
And how can kids hear it? How can kids see it? What are some visual things I can think through that will stick in these kids' minds?
Yeah.
So for us, every single story time started with what I call the mystery box, this wooden box with a gold star. And there was this mystery box song. It would
Yeah.
play, the box would be somewhere on that stage. The kids would point and yell, Mr. Josh, it's right there. I would then grab that box, open that box up, and in that box would be a clue for, hey, here's what we'll learn this week. If we're
Mm.
going to learn about Jacob, there might be a soup bowl there. And now the kids can not just hear about soup, but see it too.
Yeah.
And then when they leave that room, I heard stories of kids would every single day go back home and say, hey, mom, guess what was in the mystery box?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then thirdly, I would try to think through how can kids do it.
Mm.
So I would try to find some part of this story that the kids can stand up and engage with and move in. When I taught on Jesus calming the storm, I had the kids be that week storm. The
Oh,
kids would
yeah.
sit on their knees and pat for the rain
Yeah.
and then clap for thunder. The mystery box would have a hairspray water bottle.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
And then they get to be part of that storm. And then when I put out my hands and say, still, they all freeze. And
Mm.
now that sticks because they've heard this story, seen this, and been part of it.
Yeah. I love that you are thinking through developmentally, what does each age group need? Literally, what I just heard you say is our words matter. The words that we use matter. What I loved the most about what you said about chapel is how excited you got about the mystery box and what's going to be in the mystery box, right? Like you created that excitement about what was going to happen. The kids are like, Mr. Josh, look for it. Where's the mystery box? Oh, it's right there. And you're creating that atmosphere of this story time is going to be amazing and you don't want to miss it.
when kids walked into that room, one of my goals was that the stage is set up in a fun way that the kids turn to their friends and say, what is about to happen?
Ah, yeah.
The best things was I built this cardboard boat for story time and covered that boat with a big sheet.
Yeah.
The kids walked in just to see this giant sheet on stage. And they're like, what in the world? What are we about to see? What are we about to do?
So you're touching on something that I think is really important for us in early childhood, especially is we've got to make things very exciting. What do we do for those kids in our classroom? Let's say they're not going out of the room to chapel where you can create these big things, but what do we do in our classroom when children don't really want to come to the circle? They want to just keep playing or they want to do something else. What do we do to get them engaged in the circle to begin with?
First off, Grace,
Yeah.
oftentimes you're going to have to work really hard to make your story time great.
Yeah,
Draw those kids in with the greatness of your story.
I agree.
And as most kids plug in and engage with your story time, the pressure from their peers can be a good thing too.
For sure.
Eight of the kids in your classroom love story time and two don't. Those two will be drawn in by the eight that love story time.
Yeah.
So, as I say, grace upon grace too, think through these kids are really young. Even if they're four, let's just max out the preschool maximum
Yeah.
age, these fours and fives. They are really young. I think of years ago, I called one girl up on the big stage and we sang happy birthday when she turned 4. And
Yeah.
she turned and said, Mr. Josh, this is a big deal. I've just had 4 of these. And
I
it
love
struck me.
that.
She's right. That is less time than a presidency,
Oh, yeah,
but
absolutely.
a short amount of time.
Yeah.
So when these
Yeah.
kids don't plug into your story time in the way that you've planned it, they're really young. Set that bar low
Yeah.
and give them grace.
Sure.
There's one story time that I brought my own child to, and every single time she starts out with, hey, moms and dads, if your child runs around during story time, that's okay. She tells them, I want you to sing and dance. Moms, dads, I want you to engage with this story so that you then model that for your own kids, as opposed to, hey, Johnny, sit down.
Wow. I think that's a powerful statement, Josh. If you're going to some kind of a parent and child story time, to recognize that you as the parent are the model.
Yeah,
It's less about you demanding or commanding and more about you modeling for them what you want. As a teacher, if we're spending our time demanding that kids come to circle time rather than modeling to them how fun it is to come to circle time, how much better it is to be in this group with us, I bet we'll get better results than if we spend our time with stern faces and firm voices demanding that kids participate in something that they like. I wouldn't want to participate if somebody is looking at me with mean eyebrows and saying, come listen to me tell this story right now. That doesn't
absolutely.
sound at all fun for me.
Absolutely. A couple of practical things that might help. Oftentimes, when I've seen those who lead kids struggle to get their kids to plug into story time, they've not given kids a sufficient warning that story time
Mm,
is about to come and that
yeah.
playtime is about to wrap up.
Yeah.
So think about if you have the whole day as you've been home with your own kids, you have looked forward to, I'm going to put the kids down, sit down with a good snack and watch my favorite Netflix show.
Yeah.
And then a fourth of the way through that show, Monica walks in through your front door and turns it off and says, time for the next thing.
Frustrated.
You would be so mad, rightfully. And when kids play, this is their showtime. This is what they have looked
Mm,
forward to.
yeah.
If you just shut that off and say story time next, that's not going to work. So what you should do is, hey, everybody, 5 minutes. Now the kids can't tell time. That's
Right.
fine. You're showing them what it's like to be in this world. You can still use a phrase like 5 minutes. Put up a timer there that the kids can see
Yeah.
and have a cleanup song that kids know when this song plays, clean up and move on to that next thing.
I think that transition, doing that transition to a story time or a circle time is critical. to the success of even the start of a story time. I hadn't thought about it. Somebody interrupting my desired time, interrupt in the middle of that and say, okay, time's up. Now we're going to do something different that I don't necessarily want to do. When we
Yeah.
think about that as adults, that would make me so upset.
Yeah.
We just expect kids, we don't give them that respect, really, that they might have preferences, and it's okay for us to consider their preferences in how we go about our day. Kids need to be taught how to obey.
Yeah.
They need to be taught that sometimes we have to stop some things
Hmm.
in the middle of what's really fun. Sometimes we do have to stop to move on to the next thing. But overall, I think if we as the adult could give them plenty of time to play, I think a lot of times we also shortcut play because we
Yes.
think the most important teaching happens when we speak.
Don't get into a deep play until 20 minutes in.
So if we're
So,
only giving them 20 minutes and then cutting
yeah.
it, they
Yeah.
just got started,
Yes.
like stopping your show 20 minutes in.
Yes, it is.
So I think for us to do that transition a little bit better, to say, hey, let's actually give them sufficient time to play, give them that warning, give them some kind of a visual timer. I taught 4-year-olds for a long time, and we eventually started putting stickers on the actual, like we had an analog clock on the wall. So we put stickers on the clocks. When the hand gets to the red dot, that means playtime is almost over. Or when it gets, maybe we had a blue sticker and then the red dot meant it was over. So they could see, I would say, look, the hand is at the blue dot, which means we have 5 minutes to go. So they could see it going. Smaller time increments, like maybe you give them a 5-minute warning and then a 2-minute warning, and then the song starts. That way they can naturally wind down their play and you're not just interrupting in the middle of something. Even with the
And
Netflix show, I think if you said, hey, Monica, you're going to get about 20 minutes in today, and then we're going to need to do this, that would be easier for me than you just shut it off, give me the remote,
done.
you're done.
Yep. Yeah. And there might be times too that you as the leader can take steps to compromise. I think of this past week, there was one young girl who worked really hard to build this really big block palace,
Yeah.
and she did not want to clean up. And then it occurred to me, wait a second, we're in 25 minutes, we'll go back to playtime. So I
Mm,
told her, hey, wait, what if we just leave this here and then we can go and have story time, song time, snack time, and then you can go back to it.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
yes, that was outside of the rules that I had set. And once again, grace upon grace. The win is I want this child to plug in and engage.
Yeah.
How can I help her do that?
Yeah. So give me some practical ideas for when we actually get to that circle time. What can we do to make that circle time really engaging?
Yeah, when you plan that, really think through, write down, hey, here's the things that I'll say, here's the things that I'll do. Think through, this is going to be a short time that I'm just going to sit down and speak with these kids, but don't just wing it, plan it.
Don't wing it, plan it. I love that.
When I first started this, I took a blue, pink, and yellow highlighter pen and see, here, do, and marked
Good.
up on my own sheet, hey, here's the see, here's the do. And there was one week that the whole thing was pink. And I went, wait, I'm just speaking at these kids the whole time. And then I stepped back and thought, how can I get some pink, yellow, and blue here? How can I have here, see, and do there?
I think that's so good to have something visual for kids to look at or even hold. A lot of times with stories, in my 4-year-old class, I loved giving kids something to listen for.
Yep.
Doing a letter, like maybe today we're listening for the letter K. What sound does the letter K make? As you're telling a story, I can tell a story about King Saul or King David. When you hear
Oh,
the letter K, have them do something with their bodies. So when you hear the letter
yes.
K, touch your nose. It's movement with their bodies, and you're giving them something really specific to listen to. I think
Yes.
I've been a Christian for a long time. I know a lot of Bible stories without really having to go review them. But I love what you said. Don't wing it. Even if you think you know the story,
Yes.
for your own self, take the time to reread it. Reread it in scripture, reread it in whatever children's Bible or curriculum that you're using. I think in some ways we will better honor God's word if we truly ourselves are also prepared.
Yes.
I've told the story of David and Goliath 50 times. I know what happens.
The great thing about a circle time that's done well is it's not a monologue. Give
Mm,
kids a chance to speak up and be part of it.
yeah.
One of my favorite things is to have the Lord of the Flies reference. Um,
True.
hey, when you hold this, you get to speak. And
Ah,
when you don't have this, it is not your turn to speak. And then
yeah.
you can pass around and say, hey, we're all going to go around and say, my name is, and I'm happy. Great. Okay, give kids a chance to speak up and be part of it.
Yeah.
And then when you get that conch and say, hey, now it's my turn, the kids will lean in because you gave them a chance first.
Oh, that's so good, Josh.
And now they get to engage with you just like you did with them.
Again, you're giving us a really great reminder of how important it is for us to really respect children as full-fledged human beings. They have things they want to share. I think that allowing children to speak before you tell the story, a lot of times I think what we do is we want to tell the story, and then if there's time, then you can talk. And I think sometimes if we could reverse that and say, tell me something you want to share. In my experience, you actually reduce interruptions that way. And the
Yes,
kids have these words that just have to get out. And if we'll give them an opportunity to get them out early, then you're more likely to have more time to tell the story because you've allowed them to get out what they're holding in.
you might miss really simple things too when you don't give them a chance to speak up.
Mhm.
And then you miss ways to engage these kids without fuss. Weeks ago, a little girl in my group who is from Cameroon and came to us speaking just French.
Wow.
She is grown and she now speaks in English too. Several weeks back, I had said, hey, I'm going to pick for this week's story 2 kid volunteers. I'm going to pick kids sitting down on the rug. I picked two, and then she threw this huge fit.
Mm.
And when class was done, I went and spoke with her and said, hey, you weren't sitting on the rug. I had to pick kids who were. This sweet girl looks at me through tears and said, I don't know what rug is. And I went, oh, wait, I just assumed.
That
I
breaks my
just
heart.
assumed. I didn't give her a chance to speak. And when she was not on the rug, I just assumed she was disobeying me, which was wrong of me, even if she did not speak French. My
Right.
first thought should have been, hey, this is not like her. What's up? And then give her a chance to speak. She might have asked, hey, what's rug? And I go, oh, this thing.
Yeah.
Then there's no fit. Zero tears. She's on.
And she feels understood and seen rather than judged, because that's
And
what we are quick to do.
that day ended with me apologizing because I assumed she was disobeying me, which was wrong of me.
Yeah. I think we forget sometimes. It's what you've been reminding us of throughout this episode is that these kids are still babies. They really have only been on earth for a very short amount of time. So many times we assume that they know the vocabulary. We assume that they understand the directions when maybe they don't actually understand what you're asking them to do, not just because they speak a different language, but
Right.
maybe they just don't understand what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
And that's valid. They have been on the earth for 30 months or 36
Yeah.
months or 40 months. They are still babies, and we've got to be patient. It's the grace upon grace that you've said multiple times. We've got to be patient with them and trust that they're not just trying to push our buttons. I think as adults, it's easy for us to go there, right? Because we're around adults who know better. And young kids often really don't know better. They really are trying to do the best they can in most cases.
They sure are. When we give them a chance to be treated like human beings, I might treat you.
Yeah.
I think we see fruit there and we see flourishing there.
Absolutely. So, Josh, I want to talk to you about a story time that you lead in your community. You are in a city where the church is not as welcomed as maybe it is where I live in the South. You've created a unique connection point in your community where you host a story time for the community at large. Now, you're not in a typical church building, you're actually in a shopping strip on the mall. So that was fun on a shopping strip on a busy street. So, talk a little bit about What made you want to do this community story time? And then I'd love to hear some stories of how you've been able to connect to the community
Mm.
by hosting a story time for the community.
Yeah, so I moved here to Baltimore from the South 3 years ago this month, and I have learned a lot. Um, my first month here, we had a childcare event that we were trying to give the parents here a date night.
Yeah,
Brought in a big out-of-state mission team. We were going to give the kids snacks. I had crafts. We were going to watch a film, make crafts about that film.
yeah.
This whole thing planned out.
Sounds amazing.
I felt great about it. We sent flyers to schools. We hung flyers up. I tried to plug in everywhere that I could for being brand new and saying, hey, we have this thing. Come all, come in. It's free. This is fun. Now, in the South, this would have been a huge win. If I did this in your hometown,
Yeah,
we would be overflowing with kids, even
I'm
kids who are
sure.
not church kids, because church is generally seen as trustworthy. In Baltimore, it is not. Some of that is failings of the church, some of that is bad press, some of that is just worldviews, but the church is not seen as a trustworthy thing.
So how many people
For
did you
this
have come
event,
that night?
we had 30 kids sign up, which is good. We
Yeah.
had zero kids come.
Josh.
I sat there with that mission team and we waited for kids for 2 hours and no kids came.
Wow.
And we had one mom come. She signed up and then she walked in by herself to check us out and said, my husband said, don't drop the kids off at church. And I went to go check it out and there's zero kids here. This is weird.
Goodness.
And she left. When I stepped back and thought, okay, what went wrong? Church is not a trustworthy thing here. We have to go out and show the Baltimore community that we're for them. We love them. We can be a safe place. So what we did was we paused all church-wide kids events and said, hey, we want to get out of these walls. We're going to go volunteer in schools, go to parks and make friends with moms and dads.
Great.
And instead of, yeah, let's have a big childcare night, what if I send 20 from my team with their own kids to the park to just hang out? Great.
Yeah.
And we saw fruit there. And
Yeah.
now we've grown in trust enough that we now have a weekly story time. And this is a secular story time within our church walls. The Baltimore community here is suspicious when it's very clear that you're trying to dump faith onto them. And I
Yeah.
use the word dump because they feel like that.
Yeah.
If we invited them in and then slammed them with faith, they run. So,
Mm.
hey, we're going to read a Pete the Cat book,
Yeah.
and then we'll do a Pete the Cat craft.
Yeah.
We just want to show you that city kids, this church, we're a safe place for you. We are for you. We love you. We want you to flourish. This is a story time every week, Thursdays at 10, and parents stay. This is not a drop-off event. I think if my first event was parents come too, I
Yeah.
think that would have worked.
Yeah.
But hey, leave us your kids sounds fishy here. So what we've done is said, hey, let's leave the church walls and build trust. And then let's have things within the church walls that are not super churchy. And we're going to invite parents to stay and say, hey, we're safe.
Yeah.
And now we're growing to, we have 39 plus kids every week. 30 plus of those kids are not from this church.
That's wild.
I have a list of our pastoral team is about to take turns reading books to these kids.
I love it.
So
I
they'll
love it.
hear from them. My coach, Josh, always tells me, good works builds goodwill so that you can share the good news. And
Mm.
those of us who are in church, especially in the South, might hear this and say, of course they don't want faith, but you're compromising by not pushing faith. We're not, and we're seeing fruit that, hey, let's take a small step and let's just get them in the church walls,
Yeah.
show them that we're for them. We're now seeing parents from Storytime coming to church. We're now seeing a nanny from Storytime about to be voted into church membership here. And she's never been part of a church.
That's the work of God when you open yourself up to say, yes, this is how I've always done it, but it's not working. To be able to step back and say, that is how I've always done it, but what is God doing here? And how do I need to adjust to
Yeah.
participate in that has been amazing. I love that you being engaging in a story time, even in that story time with the parents there. If you're not engaging as you're telling that story, those parents aren't coming back. They give you one shot
Yep.
to make it fun for their kids, to make it interesting for them, to make it worth their time. Tell me the good again. Goodwill builds,
So when you do good works,
oh, good works.
build goodwill so that you can share the good news. And Josh Denhart has said, no, you should just share that as yours, but that is too good. That's Josh. It's helped me, even though we're a Baltimore City church. We do have some within our church who might be suspicious at first when I say, hey, we'll have a church-wide event and we're not going to talk about the
Yeah.
gospel. And they're
Yeah.
like, what? No, this is a part of a broader plan. We want them to come here so that they can hear, not in a way that's bait and switch, not in a way that, hey, come for this fun story time. And suddenly we're trying to rope them into this thing. We want them to willingly step into this church and step into this faith so that they can meet and love Jesus.
Yeah.
We're seeing that take place because of good work that led to goodwill that leads to the good news being shared.
I loved that about your church when I got to visit is that truly your heart to build trust with the city for those in your community to know that the church is not just about you coming in the building, but it really is about the church being a part of the community, meeting needs, loving and engaging with your neighbors, regardless of faith. It was a beautiful thing to see and experience. So thank you for being an example to those of us who sometimes take for granted that the church is still a trustworthy place.
I'm really glad that you came. Even those who are hearing this now who are in the deep south or in a place where the church is seen as worthy of trust.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, for so many, it's not.
Mhm.
Even if you're in Dallas,
Yeah.
there are thousands who do not trust church and will not step foot in a church until the church shows they're worthy of trust.
So much for us to think through and process in our own churches. Last question that I like to ask. Our podcast is called Reimagine Childhood. I'd love for you to think about if there was something that you could reimagine about our approach to early childhood right now, what would be something you would shift?
I would really love to see a shift in it not being all about readiness. And let me unpack that. What I see in classrooms oftentimes or in a preschool book or training time is in threes. It's, hey, let's do pre-K 4 readiness,
Hmm.
or let's do kindergarten readiness. That goes on in
Yeah.
12th grade when it's all about college.
Yep.
We need to let kids be 4. We need to let kids be 3. I told you the first time that we taught several weeks back, and let me look at the date now. We are recording this March 25th. This is my last March 25th with my child being 4.
Yeah.
And I don't say that in this sappy way, but in this way of heart and mind is fixed upon pushing her to 5. I'm gonna miss 4. As soon as she's 5, I'm gonna push her to 6 and then 7, then she's gone.
Oh, she's already grown.
I think about that a lot when I hear somebody who leads in a pre-K 4 room and their mind is on how can I get these kids ready for kindergarten.
Yeah.
The kids will be fine. Help them to be 4 really well. If they can be 4 really well and experience 4 and love being 4 and are safe to just flourish as kids who are 4, kindergarten will be fine.
It's the perfect way to end this session. Love kids where they are and trust that God will take them where they need to go. God will prepare
He sure will.
them. Our job is to do our very best with where they are today.
He's got this because he loves them even more than you or I or even their moms and dads can.
So true. Okay, I was so encouraged by Josh's sharing about the community story time that he coordinates in his church neighborhood. Honestly, I was also a little bit challenged by it. His saying, good works leads to goodwill, which leads to opportunities to share the good news, really resonated with me. Where am I doing good works? Just to love people where they are and trusting that God will bring opportunities for sharing the good news when the time is right? Or is my heart really always looking for, if I can't share the gospel, I'm not doing it? Or it's just not worth it if we don't also talk about God every time we're together. Listen, every day that you care for someone's child, you are doing the good works that he was talking about. You are doing the good works, which will lead to goodwill, which eventually will give you an opportunity to share good news with the parents you encounter every day. Don't underestimate your impact. I'm so excited to tell you that we're going to partner with Josh this fall in a 4-week live training series. Josh will lead us through a series of 4 training classes via Zoom. These classes will be live. You'll get to interact with him. You'll get to interact with other people in your cohort. And we'll consider it a deeper dive into the basics of early childhood care and education. Josh is always very ministry focused, even in his community story time where he doesn't share Bible stories every time. He is very ministry focused in how he approaches early childhood ministry, and I'm excited that we get to partner with him. This will be a great option for early childhood educators, church early childhood ministry leaders. If you have a preschool minister in your church that would benefit from an overview of child development, bringing ministry into early childhood, classroom management, and purposeful play. That's what Josh and I are going to talk about this fall, starting in September. All the details are on the events page of our website, so check that out. I hope to see you with us there. Talk to you soon. Thanks for listening to this episode of Reimagine Childhood with Early Childhood Christian Network, where you'll get practical ideas to implement in your classroom today. You might even be challenged to change your mind about a few things, and you'll always be reminded that your work matters. If you love this episode, would you subscribe and share it with your coworkers, friends, and family? You can connect with us on Instagram at Early Childhood Christian Net. That's Early Childhood Christian Net. And on Facebook at Early Childhood Christian Network. Remember to visit our show notes for more great resources. We're so glad you're here. See you next time.